natural phenomenon for years, and we've not made the connection. We're not seeing things the way Allah wants us to see things. So how many of years, how many have lived? 30 years, 60 years, 70 years, a whole lifetime, but failed to miss the communication that Allah is pointing us to something higher, to something higher. So one of the mercies of the Quran is to help us to see things clearly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take common occurrences, things that happen all the time, like the rain coming down to revive a dead man. And He'll point it out to us, sharpen our focus, so that we can see it in the right way, so that we can derive a message from what's being observed. And when Allah does this, we begin to see that really the whole physical world around us is actually the earth. If you want to get an idea of how much the earth weighs, you would have to take the weight of an elephant, which is a ton, 2,000 pounds. You will need not a million elephants, you will need 1 trillion elephants weighing 2,000 pounds. And just to come close to how much the earth might weigh, you have to multiply that by 60,000 in order to get an idea of how heavy, how massive the earth is itself. But here we are, being supported by the earth, which is floating in space, being held up by pillars that we can't even see. So you tell me, which one is stronger? The material or the immaterial, the abstract that you can't see? So this is the Quran, pointing us to the higher reality of things. So that is the 11th verse, and in verses that preceded, Allah says of the Quran itself, in the second ayat, He says, "Wal kitabin mubin," and some translated by the clear book, but it can also be translated as the book that makes things clear. Inna ja'alna Qur'ana Arabiyyan la'allakum ta'qilun. That we have surely made it an Arabic Quran that you might understand. The word Arabic, from its root word Arabi, means to speak clearly or to express one's mind clearly. So we have a book that makes things clear, given to us in an expressive language that helps with speech clarity. And there's really a connection. There is a connection between the two, between the book and the language itself. This was pointed out to us by our teacher when he said, reflect on the verses that come in Ar-Rahman, the 55th chapter of the Quran. Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran, Khalaqa al-Insan, Allama lahu al-Bayan. That it is the merciful benefactor who taught the Quran, created man, and taught him clear, eloquent speech. He said, take a moment and just look at the ordering of the verses for a moment. Just the ordering of the verses. It starts off with Ar-Rahman, the merciful benefactor. And normally you would think that the verse should read, He created man, then taught the Quran. You would think that in a chronological sense. But the verses actually read that He taught the Quran, then created man. So he said this is revelation from on high. Because it's really the teaching of the Quran that actually creates the man. The word is insane. Insane. And when we look up the word insane, One of the root meanings of insan means to perceive, to come to know. So it's the teaching of the Quran that forms in us really the right perception, the right way to look at things. And in order for us to be those that think straight, our minds really have to be bathed and really soaked, immersed, marinated in the Quran itself. If we're going to think right, perceive right, and see right. With the right thinking and with the right perception, then we can express ourselves clearly, dignified, and in an eloquent way. So, Ar-Rahman, allama al-Quran, khalaqa al-insan, allama al-bayan. That is the merciful benefactor who taught the Quran, created man, and then taught him eloquent speech. Why? All of this emphasis on clarity, this emphasis on the language itself. Allah says that we have made it an Arabic Quran so that you can understand. So that you can understand the Al-Qur'an. And it is said that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it is reported that he said that Allah hasn't created anything more useful than the human intellect. Aql, the same root here, the aqilun, so that you can understand this reasoning ability that we have been given by Allah. Now we are in 2018, in probably one of the most advanced technological societies on the earth at the moment. This age of science that we're in, and you wouldn't believe it, but reasoning is actually looked down upon these days. It's looked down upon. Nothing is real to some in the scientific community unless it's backed up by empirical scientific evidence. Now that's okay if we're talking about questions of a scientific nature. But there are other questions, bigger questions, questions of higher magnitude that are not of a scientific nature. As a matter of fact, the bigger the questions are, the farther you get away from being able to use the rules of science and experimentation. These big questions. The questions like, does Allah exist? Big question. The question of, what is the purpose of life? Big question. The question of what is, or is there such thing as an afterlife? These have been questions that have been pondered since man himself has been thinking. Big questions. And unfortunately, well, I would say fortunately, it doesn't take a PhD to answer these questions. Doesn't take a medical degree. Doesn't take a JD or an ED or any other degree. All it takes is the thing that's been commonly given to all of us, our reason, our reasoning ability. You know, even the people who are foremost in disbelief, the people who are the most vocal of atheists, they will say that really the most important question that we got to answer, that we all got to answer, is there God? Is there God? Even to them, it's a hugely important question, people who have rejected faith. So let's reason. Let's use our code for a moment. And the reason this is important is because they even know the stakes are high. high. The stakes are high as to what response we give this question. What response we give it. This is a question of faith. This is a question of belief. And believe me, belief is everything. 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 There's nothing in life more important than belief. Nothing. Because it will be the one thing that determines how you behave. Why does a man who's married, who believes in the standing before his Lord, why is that man faithful to his wife, faithful to his family? It's because of his belief. Why does another man who doesn't believe in the standing before his Lord have a wife, have a family, and he's not faithful to them? These are questions of belief, and belief is everything because it's going to determine how we behave. So when we reason to answer the question using our reasoning capability, all we really need is just one good reason to believe, and the question is over. The question itself, just one, and it's over with. But what if we could provide 10 reasons to believe? Shouldn't that strengthen our faith? What if we could provide 1,000 reasons to believe? Shouldn't that strengthen our faith? What if we could provide 1,000,000 reasons to believe? It should strengthen our faith. So today I'd like to offer 50 trillion reasons to believe. It's 2:10, and I promise we can get out of here on time. 50 trillion reasons. Inside of our bodies, we have over 50 trillion cells. And inside of every single one of them, there is the genetic code, the DNA. If you were to take it out of just one cell and stretch it out, it could wrap around a football field in just one cell. It is the genetic code that gives the instructions to the cell as to how to perform. Whenever you find code, whether it's genetic code or any code, Morse code, wherever you find code, there's always information. When we have computer code, Java, C++, these computer codes, these are digital codes that are conveying information. Braille, a blind person, can take the digital, the tactile feel in that code and derive information for their mind. Wherever there's code, there's always information, and wherever there's information, there's always intelligence. Intelligence. So, as we're reasoning, out of these 50 trillion plus cells that we have in our body, how many of them did you make? How many of them did you design? How many of them did you instruct with the intelligence to reproduce itself without you helping it at all? How many of them did you evolve to become kidney cells that go on to make a kidney and purify your blood? How many of them did you determine to be heart cells, cardiac cells that make a heart and circulate the vital life blood itself in our body? How many of them did you make into brain cells that could use language and have eloquent speech? So we can go on and on. Over 50 trillion plus reasons as to why we should believe. But all it takes is one. And for us as believers, the question of faith has been settled. It's settled for us. We're believers. We're here. We're believers. The question of faith, it's been settled. But that's the point. If the question of faith has been settled for us, now our faith, it obligates us. There's no question. La ilaha illallah. No question about that for us. But our faith, it obligates us. It obligates us. So for this first part of the talk, we've been emphasizing clarity of vision, clarity of perception, clarity of thinking. You can't get clear vision. You can't get clear thinking without faith. That's the point that I'm making. That really the prerequisite for us seeing properly, seeing the way Allah wants us to see, it actually comes from faith. Something that starts in the dark. Our prophets give us probably the most visible, glaring example of how their vision, they were able to see. And their vision was much larger than our vision because their faith was much larger than our faith. So speaking of the people who have rejected faith, Allah says in the Quran that it's not their eyes that are blind, but it is the hearts that are in their chests that are blind. Their physical eyes work quite well. They got 20/20 vision, some probably better vision than some of us. But their spiritual eyes are blind. So nothing has brought us to the right conclusion concerning faith except Allah's mercy. We have to acknowledge that it's really only Allah's mercy that has brought us to this particular conclusion. And how do we show appreciation for bringing us to this conclusion? How do we show appreciation for the Quran as a mercy to our lives? How do we show appreciation for it? We have to follow its guidance. We have to follow its guidance. And by following the guidance of the Quran, it allows us to become instruments of mercy. And we can follow right in the footsteps of our Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as a mercy to all of the world. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to pour out on us mercy. And we pray that He make us those who show mercy. And we pray that Allah strengthen us in faith and broaden our perception and help us to see things clearly. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. Oh Allah, let not our hearts deviate after you have guided us aright, but grant us a mercy from yourself, for you are a granter of mercy beyond measure. Amen. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. The praise is for Allah. Then again, and again, and again, the praise is always for Allah. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. That I have not created jinn or man for no other reason other than to serve me. I've been thinking about this verse, this ideal of purpose and service. After I came across it was an advertisement on TV, and the advertisement had the backdrop of Reverend King, Dr. King, giving one of his speeches, one of his famous speeches called The Drum Major Instinct. And it gave me an opportunity to go back because this speech was before my time. But to go back and listen to it, to see if there was something in it that I could benefit from. So he describes this drum major instinct as this tendency in us to want to be out front, like a drum major. But this tendency in us to want attention, or this tendency in us to want to be praised, this tendency in us to want to be important. So he's teaching from the scripture that came before, and he says that if you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. But know who is greatest amongst you shall be your servant. This is the instruction that Esau, alayhi salam, may God be pleased with him, gave his disciples. Know that the one who is greatest amongst you shall be your servant. These great religions, Islam, Christianity, they come with a focal point of once we have the faith, that faith has to be channeled outward into service. So the Reverend King says that really that's the new definition of greatness. Anybody can literally be great because anybody can serve. And I thought about this, these two messages, these two underlying themes in these great religions, pointing us towards service and sacrifice. There was an article that came out about a year ago or so in a big national publication, newspaper, the Washington Post. And this big national newspaper with its big national coverage actually had an article in there about Muslims in New Medina, Mississippi. So the article was entitled, Aging Muslim Community Worries About Its Future. And in the article, it profiled our brother, his name was Brother Abdul Hakim Sharif, one of the pioneers to that effort in New Medina, Mississippi, happens to be 86 years old at the time. 86 years old. And he described how the young people were moving away. So they had this real concern about how will the legacy of what they were trying to do, how will the legacy be carried on? How would they carry it on? And they came to the thought that perhaps we should get more young people. We got to get more young people into this to help us carry on the legacy of all of the work that we put in. But the article never really came to a conclusion as to how to do that. How do we attract young people to the efforts of what our pioneers have been working so hard to establish here in America? So with that, I want to place it as a seed or place it as a thought for further thinking and further consideration of us coming up with a plan. Because our community here in Atlanta, in Masjid Muqminun, and other masjids around this city, around this state, we have that same demographic issue. If you come to the Fajr prayer in the morning at this masjid, you won't find anybody under 40 years old. How do I know that? Because I'm the youngest one there. So we have this challenge, I would say, and we have to find a way to, I call it maybe, let's call it Dawah 2.0. How do we reinvigorate our invitation efforts to bring in a new vibrant, next generation group of Muslims to this place, to expand our ranks here, to help us in the work that we need to do in America, to help us in the work. And when I'm talking about a new generation of Muslims, in my mind, I'm thinking about people who are not Muslim at present, but those that we invite to the Rahmah, those that we invite to the life-sustaining water, those that we invite to Islam. And I see in it two benefits. I see in it a benefit for people to be saved, just like we were saved, and preserved like we were preserved. But also a secondary benefit of now having more ideals, having new thoughts and new minds, new energies to come amongst us to help us in the work or the mission that we have here in America. So my job today is to remind us that we still have a mission. And that mission is to call, to invite so many of us that have been lost, just like we were lost at one time. If Allah has been merciful to us, our faith now obligates us to be merciful to the broader environment. And I see no better way than doing that than inviting them in to the well or to the path of life-sustaining water. And we might seem small here in this masjid, but we're really big. You wouldn't believe how big you are. You wouldn't believe how needed you are. All you have to do is just look at some of the headlines in our so-called political system and all of its dysfunction. America needs people of character. America needs people of honor. People who tell the truth. People who value their word being bond. People who can be trusted. Whether you know it or not, we are just being preserved for the future leadership of this country. And I have no doubt that we will lead not only this country, but we will lead the world. We're just being preserved. But we need to bring in others to help us in this work, and it'll be mutually beneficial. So my job is to remind us that we still have a mission, and that it's time to get back on the post. It's time for us to invite. It's time for us to swell these ranks. It's time that over the next year, we see these ranks double, triple, quadruple. But that only comes by a concerted effort, a concerted plan, using wisdom and hikmah, using all of the tools that we have available to invite the people to what we have. We can walk out of here and we can see a man on the side of the street dying of thirst, literally dying of thirst. How many of us were just passing by? Passing by. And here we've been getting buckets and buckets of water, life-sustaining water, to help all of those out there in need. So we have to get back on our job. We have to get back on our mission and invite so that we can enjoy the fruits of the labor that all of our pioneers have put in place. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Allah bless us with good in this life and good in the hereafter, and save us from the torment of the fire.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة
The recording for today, we apologize. The person who was scheduled to do the recording got here late, and so first 10 minutes of the Khutbah is not on the recording. So please support our children. projects of Project Smile. Remember, they are part of our future. They are the future. Breakfast is served here in the masjid on Sunday morning, starting at 9:30 to 2. Practice community life and support Muslim businesses and vendors whenever possible. In-class restaurant on Cleveland Avenue is now serving breakfast on Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 11. Join us here at the masjid for Arabic classes after Fajr Salih. The prostate cancer presentation will be conducted again next month in April after Jumuah. We need 20 brothers over the age of 40 to attend. Each participant will receive a $20 gift card for completing the survey during the presentation. Please contact Brother Anis, raise your hand, to help solidify a date for this best to occur. And for this, I'm speaking to the brothers in the masjid. You all have seen the project that we completed in the Brothers Lounge area with the towel, the shoe racks, and the painting of that area. But we still need monies donated to take care of the voodoo station and the bathroom. So we still need money to help do that. So we're asking for donations from the brothers. This is going to benefit us. Plus, we need to upgrade. We need to let people, when we invite people to come visit us, that's an eyesore. So we need you all's donations to make this happen. So please donate to this event. And this is third Sunday coming up. So remember that Brother Michael, he's been waving his hand.
Yeah, that's right.
Every dollar that is spent for that breakfast goes directly to the master. He doesn't ask for any monies for this. He even pays for the supplies out of his pocket. So please, brothers and sisters, support this effort. Next Sunday, the 25th, from 2 to 4, the NABAA, the New African Business Association of Atlanta, is doing a workshop on personal and business tax tips for 2017 and 2018, and business opportunities in the city of Atlanta for 2018. And it's going to be at the Atlanta Masjid. Sister Zakia Shaheed, certified CPA, and Brother Lonnie Sabor, Director of Small Business Development for the City of Atlanta. If you're interested, we've got a flyer. Assalamu Please don't forget the brownies and the amazing raisin sauce. Be outside the masjid. And we have a united Fajr rotating community breakfast. Masjid al-Mutma'nun warmly invites you to join us for Fajr Salat, Quranic reading, and breakfast. Commentary on Quran by Imam Furqan Muhammad. Our theme, bridging the generational gap in leadership to encourage, support, and push our youth to the forefront. This is Saturday, April 7th. The speakers are Imam Furqan Muhammad, Hanif Muhammad, it says Ask Muhammad, okay, and Anis Fargan. All right, assalamualaikum. Oh, we got our brother Imam Dawood has an announcement to make.
Assalamualaikum. We just want to invite everybody out to the next United Sunday, which is going to be held right here in Atlanta. We're going to be holding at the West Side Community Market. That's right outside Buckhead. And brother,